everybody. Welcome to our very first Essentials list. Yes, so I've invited Lewis here because it's always nice to get another perspective and to have a dialogue about these games that we really like and that we think should join your Essential board game collection.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is going to be an ongoing series that we will release different categories or different mechanics of essential games that we really like. And this episode is cooperative games. Are you excited?
I am. I'm so excited. Cooperative games are my new favorite style of game. I grew up playing only competitive games. Cooperative games weren't really a thing. And now, whenever I see that a new game is out and that it has a cooperative element to it, I get excited. I'm always excited about cooperative games.
Yeah, there's just something really exciting about everyone in it together. You win together, you lose together. So all of your actions are motivated by making the team succeed in some way or another. And there's just something really nice about that. It feels good.
The competition is still there, but it's aimed at the game instead of at each other, so you don't walk away with bad feelings or hurt feelings, as can happen so often in games.
And now it's been, 20 years since we really saw one of the first cooperative games with Reiner Knizia's Lord of the Rings.
Right.
And it's just been this wonderful wave of awesome interpretations of how to make a game cooperative, and I really like it.
I think it's such a popular style of game that we're seeing an explosion. And when you ask me what are my essential cooperative games, I made a list of like 50 games, and so I've tried to cut it down to just a couple favorites.
It's hard.
But I think there are so many good examples of really enjoyable co-ops out there.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to share a handful of games that we have and that we also think are really great examples of cooperative gameplay, but also just a really great experience.
Right.
The other thing we did too, once we looked at our list, which we haven't seen each other's yet, but we realized that there are kind of two subcategories within cooperative, which are kind of those hardier strategy games that are real tabletop. You've got a lot of bits and pieces, and they're just a real, hour to 2 hour experience. And then there are those lighter games, which take 15 to 30 minutes, maybe 45, but really on that shorter end and lighter fare. So not maybe as heavy theme, but are still delightful and have that cooperative nature to them.
Right, so I've been calling it strategy games, the games that take an hour and you have to all work together and really use your brains, and casual games, the kind of co-op game that I might introduce somebody that's never played modern board games before, who's looking at our room saying, what game should I start with? I love to use casual co-ops for new players, and I still enjoy them just with real, with everyday players. But
All right, so let's jump into casual cooperative games first. So, Lewis, do you want to start, or do you want me to say something?
You start this time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, one of my favorite cooperative casual games is a party game, but it's called Just One. Just One is great. You can have 7 players at the table, and the more players, the better. And I think with this game, people realize they can, you work together, but you can't really talk, you can't communicate with each other. And so you're trying to really outthink everyone else at the table, trying to get the one person whose active turn it is to guess a word they can't see. And so you're trying to write something down that doesn't duplicate somebody else's idea. And so there's really this, if you're playing with friends, it's really fun. If you're playing with strangers, really fun too, because you don't know how they think. And so you're trying to you're in a different situation, but the game still works really well. So I like Just One a lot.
I think Just One goes up to 7 players, is that right? I love Just One, and Just One is absolutely essential. There's no question.
Is that on your list?
Yeah.
Yay!
I would have called it my #1 pick for the casual side.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're skipping around a little bit here, but I love Just One. And I love it because when you have a group of 4, 5, 6, or 7, Just One comes out, it's fun, everybody's laughing. The group size really doesn't matter. It's good with however many you have. So
Yeah.
excellent game. Casual. but
Yeah.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Well, what's one of yours?
I love the Unlock series. Now, I was going to pick, you could just say
Yeah.
generally any escape room type
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
But I really love the Unlock series. They're a little more involved. They take an hour.
Yes.
You have to set up an app on your phone. But once you've done those two things, you've got the app, you've got an hour. I just love opening up the deck, flipping through, everybody's pointing to things. I've discovered that I can't do it on my own. I'm
Yeah.
not smart enough. But when I have other people in the room, they see things that that I miss
Yeah.
somehow. And it's so fun when you get to be the person who contributes. Hey, I see this thing, or what if we tried it that way and it works? It makes
Yeah.
you feel like you've really contributed. But then when you're stuck and someone else comes in with a fresh idea and helps you escape that room, I just love it. And I pick Unlock above the others mostly because when you're finished, you can pack it up and give it to someone else as a brand new game. And I think that's cool.
I do too. And Unlock was on my list as well. Specifically Unlock, not the other escape room box sets, because I think it was kind of between, we play more Exit and Unlock than anything else.
Yeah.
And when I think about the Exit series, you consume them and you fold and you cut and you pull string through holes and stuff.
Which is very clever.
It's very interesting, but to me, I like the Unlock because it's so clean and because you just have to be observant. You don't have to think like outside the box, so to speak, in a way that might challenge your perception of 3 dimensions. And so I like that Unlock is a little bit more streamlined. You can repackage it, send it, to friends and family. It's great. And I think, yeah, it's right there on the border of going into the 1 hour plus. But usually you can finish it, if you've got some great brains, in 45 minutes if you're lucky, if it's an easier Unlock. But it's so fun. It's great. So I wholly agree with the Unlock as another example of an essential casual cooperative game.
Yes. So we have 2 games so far.
Yeah.
What's your next game?
Okay, so it's hard to pick. I hope we can do all of them. I really like The Crew. I like The Crew a lot. I love trick-taking games. That was kind of one of the earliest kinds of games I played with my family growing up. And I never thought that you could have a trick-taking game where everybody was on the same team together. And there's this pressure and tension with not being able to speak to each other and to communicate outside of the one time a turn, if you're fortunate, you get to give information, right? And you can show, is it, this is the only card I have left of this particular suit? Is this the highest card or is this the lowest card? Mm-hmm. And I love the different challenges. There are 50 or more if you get the expansions, the little bonuses that give you even more challenges. I think it's a great, great cooperative game. And each game lasts 10 minutes, not even that, 5-10 minutes, and you play like a bunch of them in a row, and then you're like, cool, we did like 4 or 5 of them. Even if you're not successful, you just do it again right away.
Which is great if you have 30 minutes and want to just play a couple tricks, or if you have an hour and a half and want to play 10 tricks, who knows how many you can get around. But what a smart idea to make trick-taking cooperative. Brilliant. And once it's been done, you just are like, why didn't someone else invent this sooner? It's such a good idea.
And when you win, and when people are seeing your strategy and you're playing with the same group, it's really fun. It can be so satisfying. So I really do like The Crew. Quest for Planet 9. I think that's what it is.
So my other casual essential, and I totally agree with The Crew, but I have a new game that came out just a year or 2 ago.
Oh.
Took me by surprise. I'm not the most word savvy guy. I'm not a word game kind of person typically, but we got a game called Letter Jam.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It's such a fun cooperative game where everybody has a word that they need to solve, and you're trying to help each other solve their word. You can't see your own, you can see each other's, and you give clues and so forth, and it's so fun.
Well, you only see one letter at a time.
That's true. You're helping people with letters.
It's really fun. It's very heavily based in vocabulary and language and spelling. But there's a figure me out to it at the end. If you get to the end piece, which the game does take 45 minutes to an hour if you really play the game correctly. You need to slow down. Don't rush this game. Play in a big group, because the more players you have, the more options you have with letters. The fewer you get, they have these 2 stands that are on the side for, extra letters to be used in the game, but it works. But it is so fun. You sit there as a thinker. It's a game where no one talks. You just sit there and you're looking at your board. You keep your notes on your little sheet of paper, and you're trying to figure out the word in front of you.
It's kind of a vocabulary logic puzzle.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
And it's, again, such a smart idea. And it only works because you're cooperating as a game. And I think it's... For me, it was one of the big surprises. I think it was 2 years ago, 2019,
That's
when it came out.
That's a really, really great pick.
Great game, love it.
Can I do one more easy casual one?
What's one more easy casual?
Okay. I really like Codenames Duet. Okay.
This is funny because we almost just made the same essential list.
Did we?
Yeah.
You did not. Okay, so...
Codenames Duet was my number 4.
Duet. It is Codenames, which is team-based. It's not fully cooperative. So I can't pick Codenames in this category, but Duet makes 2 players able to play the game, because you can't play Codenames if you have 2 people. You have to have more people. And so I think with Duet, it's such a challenging game, and
it's so fun.
I like it, and it works. It works as a 2-player cooperative game.
I would even make the argument, because I love Codenames, but I would make the argument that Duet is the best Codenames.
Ooh.
And there's nothing more fun than when Kim and I are playing, and you lose, and you just lose your mind. How could you have pointed to that? My clue is this, and you picked that?
Yeah.
And then they explain why, and you just realize, oh.
There's different ways of thinking.
There's different ways of thinking. It's so fun.
It's all about trying to anticipate the connections you think your, other players on your team are going to make, and Duet really does fold that into a 2-player so well.
Good. Yeah,
it's really good.
Great 2-player game, and definitely it was in my top. Yeah. So I made 4, but I've really only given 2. Letter.
Did the other 2? Oh, okay, okay. Let me see if there was any remainders that I'm really just okay.
And I guess you did unlock as well.
I did, yeah.
So we tied on all of our
Fantastic.
casuals.
So those are going to be our recommendations between the 2 of us.
Yes.
Those were 5 games, right?
Perfect 5, yeah.
Okay, so we're ready to move on to the hardier cooperative games, the strategy games that take up a little bit more space and a little bit more time, and definitely a little bit more think power. So, Lewis, do you want to get us started with your first essential pick?
I do. So, for my first essential pick, I'm going to pick a relatively new game that I just fell in love with, called Horrified. Now, this is a monster game where you play citizens in a town, and you're trying to stop Dracula or Frankenstein's monster or the Wolfman, Invisible Man. You have the Mummy. You have these different monsters that will be stomping around the town, and your goal, along with your fellow players, is to find the way to stop them. And each monster has different requirements to stop them. So for Dracula, you have to smash up his coffins, and for the Wolfman, you have to do other things. And there's just, every time you play, you pick different monsters, 2 or 3 monsters to challenge you, and you have to work together, and it can be surprisingly difficult. And when you do finally get that final monster, everyone cheers, and it's just so much fun.
Yeah, it's a challenge. And you're also trying to avoid being beat up too much by these creatures that are hounding you. And you're also trying to save the citizens, the village people of the area on the board,
Right.
and so you're trying to usher them to the place that they want to be to go to be safe. And if you lose them, you're also going to lose the points. It's essentially like a death track. So if you lose too many people, then you lose the game, and you have to do that before you essentially defeat all of the creatures.
Yeah, and I think the reason I went with Horrified, because there are a few other games that are very much in this space. I think Horrified has a theme that's very clear, especially if you're a new player who's just for the first time playing a strategy co-op. And it's simple enough that a newer person can get into it, and yet it's engaging enough that everybody will really feel like they're challenged.
Yeah, I think Horrified's a great pick, and I didn't add it to my list because I was almost positive that Lewis would. I knew it. It's a really good game. Yeah, it's good.
Well, what about you? What's one of your strategy essentials for co-op?
So mine is it's a strategy co-op that crosses over into real-time play. And I know that real-time play is not everybody's jam, but this game came out relatively recently. It was the second run. It's Project Elite. And it's exciting, it's exhilarating, and you're all on the same team. You have an objective, you're starting on one side of the board, and you're trying to go out and do something, but there's just swarms and swarms of aliens. There's 3 different types, and they move differently, and they fight differently. And then there's always the big baddies that show up, and those are really scary, and they do some crazy damage. And you're running out with your other players, and it's just mayhem. It's crazy. It's chaos, and you're rolling dice and 2-minute timer every round. And you're just trying to do your goal, the objective, bomb things. I don't know, like
defuse.
Why not? And then get back. That's the thing too. Is you have to get back and cross the line. And there's nothing more exciting than having one player who's like, the straggler. He's just and you're like, come on, 10 seconds, and then they cross the line. It's so exciting.
And so in this game, you're rolling dice while a timer is counting down, and it is a little more involved because you have to know the rules of rolling the dice, and the timer makes your brain kind of stop thinking properly. What I've noticed, I love Project Elite, and part of the reason I love it is Kim hits the start of that timer, and I sit there and do my little thing, and then the timer beeps and we all stop, and I look up, and all I've done is this little, I've cleared a little spot and killed 4 or 5 monsters. Everyone else has gone out, killed 30 monsters, defused bombs left and right, and I'm like, good thing we're all a team. Because if it was just me, we would be in trouble.
No, we all get in a pickle at some point. I mean, if you get stuck somewhere and you get pushed around or you get hit too many times, and there's asymmetrical player abilities with your characters. There's just so much to love about that game. And it's super replayable, and it's fun to teach new players. So I think it's...
There's a lot going on, and I think the first time or two you can get a little panicked, but I think once you've had a few rounds, you'll settle in and say, oh, this isn't really that bad.
No.
I can do what I need to do, and there's enough time.
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up.
All right, you ready for another one?
I'm ready for another one.
So, thinking about essential strategy co-ops, I wanted to pick one that is gonna burn your brain. It is hard. It is full of variations. There's a million ways, different ways to play. It's called Spirit Island.
Oh.
Did you see that coming?
Yes.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
And as you may know, Eric Royce is one of my favorite designers. I think he just does amazing work. And Spirit Island is a game that you have to work together because you will not win it if you're not talking to each other and coordinating your plans and so forth. When everybody comes together and you're all doing it, it's a puzzle that can be solved, and it's so gratifying when you've saved the island.
It is. And
Yes.
you really do. I think it's not the, you have some games, cooperative games, let you have MVPs. I'm thinking of Pandemic. Pandemic sometimes has like MVPs where one player is in a certain position to do something really amazing, and maybe they do it once or twice, and another player, there's support roles too in that game. So you don't always get like the limelight when you're a support role in Pandemic. And so I think in Spirit Island, there's no MVP. And you do have this puzzle in front of you, and you spend your entire round figuring out what to do, not just this round, but the next round, because you know what's coming in the next round, and there's this way to prepare and plan, and it is a puzzle. It's a puzzle, and it is a thinker, and I really appreciate it. And the working together is key. It's vital to your success in Spirit Island.
But it's a heavy game. It's involved, and
It
you're not going to get it done in 45 minutes. You're going to be playing for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I always have a good time. Even when we lose, and we lose sometimes, I still have a great time with Spirit Island.
Yeah, it's well worth your time.
What's your next strategy game?
My next strategy game is, oh boy, I have a couple to pick from. I didn't necessarily have them in order. I just have them like, I love all of these, so it's kind of hard to just pick.
Again, I had that same issue.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pick one because I think the theme is dynamite, and I think that every time I play, I think we're going to lose, and we have lost, but sometimes we squeak it out, and it's just thrilling. It's Marvel Champions.
Excellent.
I think that game is obviously endlessly playable because of the packs you get with all the different heroes and with all the different villains. That game, you have to team, you have to talk, you have to work together. Every individual player feels valuable, and every individual character that you play is so different. Your entire deck is unique, minus some of the crossovers with the different categories of cards that everybody gets. But your deck, if you're Spider-Man, you get to do certain things as Peter Parker or as Spider-Man and with your deck. If you're Iron Man, you function differently. Black Panther, She-Hulk. These are the coolest decks, and I think this game is hardy. It is a card game, but it takes time. And if you play a villain that's a new villain that might be challenging, you gotta really understand how the villain works, because you might get overwhelmed, and you don't want to be overwhelmed. So it's so fun. It's so fun. I really like that.
I totally agree with the Marvel Champions pick. If Kim had picked my final choice, I would have switched and taken Marvel Champions.
No way!
So
That's great. That's so good. I love the variety we've got here. But we do. I think we second each other's so
we do,
well
because
we play these together.
And we have a good time. So this is one reason we're going to have a lot of the same things, is because when we have a good time together.
Do you have a favorite Marvel Champion that you've played or that you've looked at their cards? Is there someone you want to play? We haven't played with everybody.
I haven't played them all, and there are a few I'd like to try. Yeah. Like, I want to try Ant-Man, because he can grow giant and stuff.
And he can grow small and giant.
He can grow small and giant, that's true.
He can do both.
What about you? Do you have a favorite? You were really good with She-Hulk.
I was great with She-Hulk. I like She-Hulk. I actually looked at the deck for Black Widow and got really excited. Yeah, I think Black Widow looks cool. I think Thor! I think Thor looks really cool. But I like those smasher people. I like the people that, like, he's got his hammer and everything, and it just looks cool. Like, the cards and the actions function like they're things that they have.
This is the little known truth about Kim. If she's offered different styles of play, she will pick the big bruiser, smash 'em up guy almost every time. And if she doesn't pick that person, she spends the whole game being frustrated. Why didn't I take the strong person,
I do try to get out of my comfort zone and try other people, but those are the people I feel most comfortable with. Yeah,
it makes sense.
Okay.
So my most essential favorite co-op is Gloomhaven.
Ah, yes.
You may have seen it coming. Now, Gloomhaven is an expensive game. It is involved. There are a million pieces and cards and rules. It's heavy. And this is actually the reason, when I looked at Gloomhaven, I said maybe we need to divide co-op games into casual and strategy, because you need to want to really invest some time if you want to get full experience of
Yeah.
Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
We played Gloomhaven for an entire summer.
Yeah, just the two of us.
Just the two
we
of us.
decided this is like the fastest, easiest way for us to play because it's just the two of us.
And I kind of like
I did,
two-player Gloomhaven maybe the best
It was
because
great.
now if you play solo, you're playing two characters and that's too much mind work. You want two people,
Yeah.
but then when you get into 3 and 4, it starts to take a lot more time for people to make decisions, and so your hour-and-a-half game becomes 3 hours.
And sometimes with more players, when you have a particular room or objective, by the time it gets to the last person in initiative order, some of the things are done and
Yeah.
taken. And then just because they were later in order, they don't get to do as much, I found, when we played with more players. And so I really like with 2, we like, okay, now we're going to long rest. Now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. And I'm going to go, do our thing. And with 2 players, it was just so much more manageable.
I think Gloomhaven, it just gave me such a great experience that I'm going to include it on this list. There are a lot of other fun options.
Jaws of the Lion, I would say.
Which is still Gloomhaven,
yeah,
right?
still Gloomhaven. If you don't want as much or to do as long,
Right.
Jaws of the Lion is a great
So
alternative.
fun. And it's not like less of a game.
It's not less of a
just
game.
It's
just less
fewer-
overwhelming.
Yeah, it's less overwhelming. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it is the game. It's
It
still
is.
the game.
It still
So,
captures.
anyway, I love Gloom.
Oh,
We've
I
talked
love
about
it.
this before,
Yeah.
but that's my
Yeah.
favorite.
That's a great
And
one.
Frosthaven's gonna come out at some point. It'll be a
When?
while. The world is complicated right now,
It
and
is,
so
I know.
Kickstarted games don't always,
Yeah.
won't always come out when we hope.
Gloomhaven was on my list, and I'm really glad that you mentioned it. But I think it's just great to have.
5.
Yeah. Wait, did we have 5 though? We only had 4 this time.
Did we?
We only mentioned 2 games each.
Spirit Island, Horrified, Gloomhaven.
Oh, yes. So I get another one.
You had Marvel Champions, and you did a different one.
You started. I get to go again.
That's what I say.
Thank you. I thought I started. So we have played almost all of the different versions of this game. My favorite is the Legacy version, but I will play this game anytime. It's Aeon's End. I think Aeon's End, as a deck building cooperative game, is just delightful. It does so many unique, fun things. Varying initiative. Every round, you don't know when you're going to essentially do your turn, and when the baddies, the monsters, are going to do their turn. You also have a very unique style of not shuffling your deck. So you play your cards, and then you just take your discard pile and you turn it over. The game is...
By the way, that's such a good mechanism.
Yeah.
Why don't more deck building games do that?
I don't know. I'm not
It's
sure.
such a good mechanism.
It's really smart.
The idea of reshuffling your deck every time you go back, it gets old after a while. And it's so nice to just boom.
It just works so well.
works so well.
You have a great time with your friends. You're all doing amazing, cool things.
Yeah.
It's just fun. There's a lot of different creatures to fight, and they all have very different, smaller creatures and abilities.
In the main games, they come with 6 to 10 different monsters you can fight with, and then there's so many expansion packs.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play Aeon's End against different monsters, and each monster is radically different how you defeat it. Kind of like with Horrified, where you have to just change up your strategy for each different monster.
You have to be flexible and adaptable, and as a team, you have to select your strategy together, because you need to make sure that you respond accordingly so that you can win. That's another one of those I don't know if we're gonna win games when we play. Much like Marvel Champions. That to me, it's just a nail biter. It feels like you're losing the whole time, and then hopefully you succeed in the end.
Great pick.
Yeah.
Solid pick. So now that means we have 6 strategy
Yes, we do.
games.
We have 6.
That's
and they're
11
great.
essential games.
That's 11 essential cooperative games that you need to go out and get right now. No. But we do hope that you're inspired by our excitement about it. They might sound good to you. Hopefully our descriptions of them helped. If you haven't heard of it or you haven't played it yet.
Or if you've been on the fence, get out and try some of these co-op games.
Yeah.
If you think that you're the kind of person that only wants to be in a competitive game, well, guess what? Co-op games are very competitive.
Yeah.
It's just you're all on a team against the game. And the game will, if it's good, it'll provide a challenge.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for joining us for this essentials list from both Lewis and me. Hopefully we'll be able to bring new categories to our essential list, but this was our cooperative games, and you will see the list of those games right now. Hopefully it'll go bing and it'll go to the...
Are we on screen?
No, we're not on screen.
Okay.